Hello and welcome to Straight to the Comments, where we read the comment sections of tabloid news articles. Please stay to the end of the video to hear my opinion on this topic, and of course let me know your opinion by leaving a comment. Please like and subscribe.
Don't call obese people chunky. Doctors are urged, avoid using non-medical terms when talking to overweight patients in case they increase stigma. Doctors asked not to be judgmental or threatening if treating obese patients. Report says one jiggled patient's belly fat and another told to look in the mirror. In England, 29% of adults are obese, classified as having a BMI of over 30. Doctors have been urged to avoid using judgmental, threatening or non-medical terms such as chunky when treating obese patients. A new language guide from the charity Obesity UK says the way clinicians talk to obese or overweight patients can have a profound impact, leading to stigma and discrimination. In the report, one patient describes their humiliating experience of a doctor grabbing their belly fat and jiggling it during an appointment. The patient, who was at the doctor's to discuss suspected endometriosis, was being examined on the table and was stripped naked from the waist down. They recalled how the doctor grabbed a handful of my belly fat, jiggled it about, and announced to the nurse, "She needs to get rid of this first." Another patient who went to the doctor with chest pains was told to "go home and look in the mirror," as that was what was wrong with them, instead of being treated. Later that night, they were rushed to hospital as they couldn't breathe and were diagnosed with bronchitis. The charity, Obesity UK, says they hear on a daily basis how badly people living with obesity are spoken to and treated. Their guide, Language Matters, Obesity, is aimed at doctors to help them use more appropriate and helpful language when interacting with patients with obesity. It outlines examples to doctors of what to avoid saying and what to try instead. The guidance says doctors should avoid using threatening phrases such as telling patients, "If you don't lose weight you will end up with your leg chopped off," or just plain dead. It urges doctors to avoid using non-clinical terms, which can be disrespectful, judgmental and inappropriate, such as, "You're a bit on the chunky side, shall we say?" Instead, it suggests that doctors say, "Some people with your symptoms find that losing a bit of weight and a little exercise can be helpful." The guide says that talking about some people rather than you avoids attributing blame on the patient, and also says doctors should try asking permission to discuss weight. Other recommendations include that saying "you just need to eat less" is unhelpful. The guidance explains the reason why this choice of language is wrong, saying, "People living with obesity have lower levels of and/or are insensitive to the hormones that give pleasure from food and cause satiety afterwards. As a result, the main symptom of obesity is hunger, even after eating." Telling a person living with obesity to eat less is like telling a person with asthma to breathe less. David Strain, of the University of Exeter Medical School, who co-led the project to produce the guidance, speaking to The Times, said, "There is general agreement that living with obesity is associated with a stigma. Words can burn and contribute to the problems, meaning people may be far less willing to seek support. As healthcare professionals, we have the opportunity to address this stigma in leading by example with our words and actions to promote the best health outcomes." According to the NHS website, a person with a BMI of over 30 is considered to be obese. In England, 29% of adults are living with obesity, which is a risk factor for a range of secondary conditions such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease and certain types of cancer. Figures published earlier this year show that there are record numbers of patients being taken to hospital because of obesity. Hospitals in England are being flooded with 2,400 obese patients a day, up almost a quarter in a year. Health officials have warned the obesity crisis is likely to have worsened during the pandemic, with millions of children stuck at home and doing less exercise. The best rated comments: "If you're obese or fat, then you are obese or fat. Simple. You are fat and need to lose weight." If your GP, when they come out of hiding, can't say that, then who can? Don't sugarcoat it, they might eat it. Fat, overweight, obese. If you or your children are any of these, you are abusing yourself and or others. What can doctors actually say now, since they also ban medical terms like obese? We are too busy pandering. Why can't we become tough and say it as it is? The only way to help overweight people is to tell it as it is, without sanitizing the language. That doesn't mean being cruel, just honest. For the record, I've lost 6 st since January. I'm still classed as being obese, and the honesty and encouragement of my friends has been very important. Why not just use the word fat? Sir, I believe your stomach is sticking out beyond your chest. Rubbish. Doctors are there to treat medical conditions, not stroke patients' egos. Obese is obese, and should be described as precisely that. No, just call them what they are: fat and unhealthy. We need to stop sugarcoating everything. Most fat people know they are fat, so it winds me up they get offended when it is pointed out by a doctor. From someone who has been up and down the scale for years, and it is not an illness, it is about losing all control and comfort eating. I'm sorry, but fat is fat. Fat is chunky. Fat is not good. I say this as an overweight man of 51 who allowed the weight to steadily increase over the years. I don't want to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or have heart problems. So now I've got off my fatter RSE, and I'm walking my dog 3 miles every day. I'm drinking no alcohol, and I've ditched the carbs and saturated fats. It's a lifestyle change, and I know it will take some time, but I've lost a stone and I've got 3 more to lose to hit my ideal weight of 12 stone. There are no excuses, unless you have a medical condition, so ditch the bad foods and turn off the TV. Candor is required. You have cancer, and here is what we are going to do about it. You have had a heart attack, and here is what we are going to do about it. You have Parkinson's, and here is what we are going to do about it. You are fat, and here is what we are going to do about it. Cut them all a coddling. This is the problem. People are too scared of offending people. Fat people need fat shaming. OMG, this is getting beyond ridiculous. If someone is overweight and it's affecting their health, they need to be told in no uncertain terms. Always makes me laugh when someone says they are not fat, just thick-boned. Never seen a thick-boned skeleton yet. Overweight, fat, obese, clinically obese. In exactly that order. Time to stop with trying to make these people feel better about their unhealthy weight and say it as it is. The easily offended are taking over the world. I can carry a few more kgs than I like on occasion, and honestly, while I wouldn't want someone jiggling my belly like in the above article, my doctor telling me I need to lose weight because it's better for my health is okay by me. Sometimes people need a push in the right direction, and pussyfooting around isn't going to cut it. Don't call them chunky, call them fat. Tell it how it is, and they may start helping themselves. Stop normalizing fat people. They need to know they are fat, and need to do something about it. So back to being FAT. Truth hurts, because it makes you change your ways, and may save your life. As someone who has lost their first stone over the last 5 weeks, the thing that made me change was brutal honesty and fear. I don't want to die before my time, and I need to change. Doctors have to be honest with patients and not pander to the snowflake mentality. I'm bald. You are fat. Live with it. So a GP can quite bluntly say stop smoking. Under 20% of population are smokers, and also be quite blunt about heavy drinking. 24% of population drink more than recommended limit, but can't bluntly tell someone they are too fat. 64% of population are overweight. Madness. How about just calling them fat? Several years ago I was seeing a respiratory consultant who told me I was overweight, 14 stone. When I said I know, he looked me in the eye and said, "You are actually fat." I went on a diet right away and lost 4.5 stone. I've never been that weight again, but if I hadn't been told I was fat I would have carried on thinking I'm just a bit overweight. I'm eternally grateful to that man for using the word fat and making me realize just how fat I actually was. Many years ago I worked with a doctor who would bluntly tell patients who were fat, but claimed they ate hardly anything, that there were no fat people rescued from prison camps after the war, and that no one was responsible for filling their face but them. He would be struck off today, but he wasn't wrong. That's the problem. We wrap things up softly, rather than say it how it is. No wonder we have a problem ahead. Seriously, these doctors are trying to save lives. They don't need to sugarcoat. If a patient is too fat, just say you're too fat. If a person drinks or smokes, is it unprofessional to say you need to stop? Of course it isn't. Being obese is just as harmful medically than smoking or drinking. Leave the doctors to do their job as they see fit and stop being so PC about everything. It's alarming to see so many fat kids and young girls these days, barely into their teens, with legs like tree trunks. It's not attractive or healthy. They are fat. Simple as that. I have a friend who is a physio. She is very direct and to the point and tells all her overweight clients to get some weight off, particularly if they have knee or back issues. NHS needs more people like her. Fat is fat. End of. For goodness sake. I'm fat. I know I'm fat. I expect to be called fat. If I don't want to be called fat, then it's up to me to make better food choices and lose the weight. Let's face it, I have no one else to blame. Call them fat instead and stop trying to evade the issue. Fat is fat. Get used to it. It's your choice. I don't smoke or drink, but when I lost my son and my mum very suddenly within the space of 4 months, plus my husband lost his job, I turned to food and comfort, ate for months. It took a doctor to tell me I was overweight, bordering on obese, for me to do something about it. He told me to lose 2.5 stone to be in a healthy weight range. I've lost 2 stone now and feel so much better for it. I'm glad my doctor said that to me. Get a set of scales and a full-length mirror. One will show you how fat you are, and the other will show you how fat you look. Who needs a doctor? Chunky is not obese. Obese is obese. Pandering to the obese is part of their problem. Call it as it is. Fat people are fat. Everyone knows how dangerous that is to your health. Calling it something else is silly. Can we also get rid of all the plus size models trying to normalize obesity? I also tell my teenage daughters, if their jeans start to look over snug, to step up the exercise etc. Just as my mum used to tell me. I'm so very grateful to my mum for telling me. Why can't a doctor call them what they are? Fat. After all, he'd be telling the truth, or maybe the truth hurts. Telling a person living with obesity to eat less is like telling a person with asthma to breathe less. Righto, nice try, but no. Most with asthma have it through no choice of their own, let alone contributed to it. However, the obese only have themselves to blame. Doctors must tell the truth, and obviously the truth hurts. FFS, I'm fat. I know. I see it. It is truth. Get over it. Starts of in nursery, when you can't call a child naughty WTAF. If you're fat, you're fat. You cannot dress it up. It's life threatening. I know, cause I'm fat. If you are fat, you need to put down the fork and you will lose weight. I have lost 43 pounds with still more to go. Once I admitted it was my problem and I'm the only one who can sort it. So quit whinging and blaming everyone else. Cut your calories. You can still eat healthy and not starve and lose 2 pounds per week. I read a story where a woman's doctor told her she was fat, and hearing him say that word motivated her to lose the weight. Sometimes bluntness hits home. The worst rated comments. How about you stay out of people's lives? This country is turning into North Korea. The shaming of the population and the state to take control. I've had enough of it. I call obese Brexit voters Tubby McTubs instead. A lot of slim people get ill and die too. The only difference is the body weight. Pleasantly plump might be more acceptable. I agree, it is cruel and unfeeling to describe overeaters as chunky. I was jiggled as a teen and found it offensive, coming from a qualified person. Yeah, very pretty for a plus-sized woman is much better. Overweight ladies are greatly valued in some Middle East countries, where guys can have 4 wives. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Good. Doctors need not belittle people. Tired of this felt culture. If I want to be overweight I will be. Just don't call me obese. This used to refer to very extreme overweight people. I love articles like this. I love to read the sanctimonious remarks of the keep fit crowd. I picture them at home with their fridges stuffed full of tasteless salads, their expensive gym memberships, where, if an overweight person walked in they would stare at them with a look of disgust, their expensive bike occupying the garage, something that is way out of most people's budget, their expensive lycra suits with helmets to match, the fact that they start work at around 9 AM so have ample time to cycle to work. When they get to work after all that exercise they are lucky enough to have a shower. Well, I hope they do. When they leave work at 4:30 PM they have ample time to cycle home, another shower, a drink of whatever they mix up in their liquidizer, and then a bit of grilled chicken with their salad. Plenty of time left to go for a walk, then home to bed. What a life. Not for everyone who live in the real world. There is a way of treating an overweight, fat, obese, or whatever name you choose to call it by, and there is a way which is even more harmful to their health. Being fat isn't the problem. Being fat is merely a symptom of a far greater problem which you nor anyone else knows about. Do you really think that someone who's fat doesn't know they're fat? Do you think that, if a pill were developed tomorrow which would make someone lose all their excess weight in 1 week, that the whole overweight world wouldn't be clamoring for it? People know they're fat. They don't need to be told. What they need is someone who can be caring towards them, non-judgmental, and most importantly get them the right help for the problem which is actually the cause of their overeating or bad eating habits. Most of all, stop name calling them. #BEKIND. I really hope this is not going to become the new medical bullying to replace smoking. Telling a patient that all their medical issues are because they smoke, or, now, because they are obese is not helpful or an incentive to stop the poor habit. Not all ailments are the result of smoking or overeating, and refusing to consider other options just because of someone's lifestyle is very wrong. All it will do is stop those who need genuine medical help from seeing their doctor because they feel so judged and bullied. There are smokers who live into their late 90s without any smoking related issues, and there have always been overweight people in every generation. I agree we need to encourage a healthy lifestyle, but not at the expense of compassion, and definitely without bullying and ridicule. Means test the elderly, that will sort part of the problem out. And throw them in prison if they don't pay for their TV license. I have been to my doctor over the past 3 years having knee problems, showing no concern for my well-being, and now been told it will be in excess of 3 years for the first replacement, and he starts saying I'm fat. Well, I won't need to text my reply. For the first time in one of these articles there is the true cause of obesity. You have to look closely. Obesity is an hormonal problem, specifically insulin. Eat food that reduces insulin and the weight falls off. High insulin tells the body to store fat. As a young teenager in hospital, I was once told you need to lose weight in a rather rude way in front of a load of student doctors. I was actually within the right BMI range at the time, and said to him I had just lost a stone. Lose more, he said abruptly, and walked off. I was living on salads at the time. The doctor grabbed a handful of my belly fat, jiggled it about. I would have reported him for assault. I'd have got off the examination table, dressed, left the room, and demanded to see the chief exec. Should not be allowed to see a doctor until BMI is under 25. All diagnosis should be in medical term without any personal derogatory remarks. It is not their place to put judgments, it is their job to diagnose. I remember a time when people went to the doctors and they were treated for whatever without blaming people. Now they try and shame people for things if they took the time to fully treat and understand, could do some actual healing. People overeat for a variety of reasons, usually emotional ones, so shaming is doing more damage and adding to the emotional issues people have. It's about time people shut up about other people's weight. I'm fat, and I don't care. My right. If other people want to be offensive towards me, it says more about them than it does me. It's my life. Doctors actually need to give patients the tools and support to lose weight. Obese people know they're obese, but some need regular appointments and nutritional advice. It's like saying to an asthmatic that they'd be able to breathe better with an inhaler, but not providing it. If telling people straight worked, there wouldn't be anyone who's obese. Obese people do problem solve and often juggle demanding work, home and other commitments, voluntary work. Obesity isn't the underlying cause of illness, otherwise thin people wouldn't get sick. Sometimes doctors disregard illness, stating people are just fat when they have ovarian tumors. By the time doctors look into the issue, cases have been terminal and families have lost mothers, sisters, daughters, etc. I'm sure everyone does something that is not good for them. Drink/smoke/bet a bit too much, etc. Perhaps you are so obsessed with being fit that your families are ignored, etc. Everyone does something that could be improved. Judging doesn't help people to improve. Fat people must now lobby for their rights. Please don't use the F word. I prefer the term cheerfully chubby. Fine if the doctor says lose weight, but there is no support given, no advice. What are you meant to do if you eat 1600 calories but injure yourself, hips and ankles, every time you go for a walk to increase your exercise? Obesity is a mental state, a disease brought on by boredom and disappointment. It is the absence of a true friendship and a cathartic honesty within our own homes. Therefore food is a short-term satisfaction. To be found we eat too much because we get bored and need a constant source of entertainment or pleasure, be it in the form of companionship. Our tragedy isn't our unconstrained appetite, but rather the difficulty we have in getting access to the emotional and psychological things that would nourish our broken souls. Obese people are fat. The judgmental comments here by many indicate that our biggest problem and drain on the state is the gutter level attitudes of those who condemn the obese. People may be able to lose weight, but there's no cure for the others. I fail to understand the abusive nature of the comments on here. There is obviously something very wrong in society when so many people, including children, are overweight. They cannot all be lazy or stupid or one of the many other ridiculous terms used to describe them. The problems are many and include the proliferation of fast food restaurants, highly processed food readily available in supermarkets, very cheap food of poor quality, inability to cook wholesome meals from scratch, more sedentary jobs, people spending more time online, highly sophisticated marketing of foods aimed to get people hooked on a product, to name but a few. I'm not chunky, I'm big boned. Be honest with people by all means, but don't assume that all their problems are due to their weight. I'm overweight. In the past I had a medical condition where one GP dismissed my symptoms as because of my weight. Turned out it was something else completely unrelated, a condition where my weight had no influence at all. I'm cuddly. How about shutting up and being a bit nicer? Fat shaming is disgusting, and these comments are full of them. People increasingly believe that carbs cause fat storage and obesity. They fail to realize or accept that dietary saturated fat causes insulin resistance, and that is important. Eating more calories than the body needs will lead to excess glucose levels. If the cells do not remove glucose from the blood because of fat-induced insulin resistance, the body will store it in the tissues as fat. Untreated diabetes can cause weight loss because the body is not converting food into energy correctly. Taking insulin solves this problem. This is why people may notice weight gain when they start to take insulin. That associates insulin with weight gain, but only to the normal levels for the calories consumed, and only if it is injected. Although insulin releases glucose, which if in excess, can be converted to body fat, converting carbs to fat is an inefficient process, and the body far more readily converts excess calorific dietary fat to body fat. The fat you eat really is the fat you wear. Be honest with people by all means, but don't assume that all their problems are due to their weight. I'm overweight. In the past I had a medical condition where one GP dismissed my symptoms as because of my weight. Turned out it was something else completely unrelated, a condition where my weight had no influence at all. You shouldn't say anything to overweight people. They know most are not blind. They don't need anyone to tell them. My BMI is 18. And stays that way. I'm intelligent. Chunkies, obviously, not so. The DM smug and the righteous are out in force today, aren't they? Clickbait article making people sound like snowflakes, but reading the complaints of the two people demonstrates severe lack of professionalism by the doctors involved. Just say the current weight, say the person is overweight, and give an indication of the range it should be in, and how to go about it. By the way, if any doctor physically jiggled my bits, and was as arrogant as described in the stated example, I would ensure formal action. Feel sorry for the women who have cos who are labeled by society as being fat and lazy when really it's near impossible to lose any weight.
That concludes the video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Personally, I don't understand a lot of the best rated comments. The article just said that doctors are asked to use the clinical terms, but the comments make it sound like the doctors were asked not to say anything at all. Please like and subscribe for 4 videos a week.